So I'd like to extend a warm welcome to you all for joining me this evening, especially on this warm night as well. So my name is Nicola Sainty. I am the Education and Training Manager here at Revive Active, as well as nutritional therapist. And my objective here for you tonight is to really shine a light on nutrients to fuel and sustain you for the race ahead. Because I've actually been onto the website and I can see what you do not only involves that physical fitness and agility, but also mental strength, fast decision making, and literally thinking on your feet. Now, I have done a few mud runs in my past, but really I think mud runs, as tough physically as they were, I was almost just throwing myself into mud and moving through it and then throwing myself at a wall and trying to climb over it. I wasn't trying to navigate and particularly switch the brain on and think on your feet as such. So I really do take my hat off to you guys that are doing that. I think that's both the physical and mental challenge, which is tough. So I suppose tonight, as well as sharing my professional knowledge, I'd also probably like to reflect as well from my practical participation in those mud sports and kind of thinking about that practicality as well around fueling your body for obviously the races that you encounter. And so really proud to say, as part of Revive Active, we work with your GB squad. And so we can see Charlotte here and Ralph. And I realise that we may have a mixed audience this evening. So some of you may be doing it for fun and that social connection, maybe to raise fitness levels. You might be doing it with the family and certainly younger members. And some of you might be competing and going towards elite status as well. And so I've tried to kind of pitch this at the kind of intermediate, and then we'll just take it all in steps and build it up, and then we'll, as I say, bring any questions together at the end. And so before we start, we'd just really like to say a huge congratulations to the team over the weekend. So we see that Charlotte actually won her leg comfortably on Saturday night in the British Sprint Relays as well. And then in the individual event yesterday, I believe that she came fourth place, but it was only 7 seconds behind the fifth place finisher. So, I mean, outstanding performance there as well. And I'm sure that you're all super proud of her and of Megan and of Nathan's performance as well over the weekend. Truly tremendous. And as I say, I absolutely take my hat off to you at those fitness levels. And so let's dig in then. And so really, I thought this would be a good opening slide because people often say about calories, don't they? And how many calories do we need to be able to fuel our bodies at base level? And then what are the calories that may be needed when we actually increase that activity level as well and that exercise level daily? And so this is just the base level. And I think that we can all see that we've got different growing needs over different lifestyle ages and phases. And then within that, we're always taking into account as well the weight and the height of somebody, the physicality in terms of the level of exercise they're doing, and more things as well. Like, you know, if somebody's suffering, for instance, with maybe a chronic disease as well, they might have a higher need for calories to be able to put more nutrients into the body. If somebody's got a faster metabolism, then somebody else and then maybe need as well more calories in. But I just wanted to say outright that I won't be mentioning calories anymore, because what I really truly believe is that actually if we put the right nutrients into the bodies, then calories don't necessarily matter, because the body, when it's got all the nutrients that it needs, it's very healthy and it's very vital. And with vitality comes massive energy as well. And so I'm not talking for the elite athlete here that obviously perhaps will be working with a sports nutritionist and looking at that caloric intake. I'm talking for the general population, the general people on here that are obviously doing it for fitness and for fun as well. And so I really believe in being nutrient dense in the body will ultimately bring everything that we need, and the body will be able to utilize that. And so when I'm actually looking at foods, I also think about those baseline needs and what we might need to increase, obviously, as that demand increases. What's the supply we're actually putting back into the body? So it's the food quantity that we know we might want to fuel up pre-race, but what's the food quality? because there's a lot of difference, isn't there? And as we'll see as we're digging, we could have that Mars bar, couldn't we, up there, that's full of calories and that's going to give us that quick energy, but then equally it's not got many nutrients at all, if any, within it, apart from that pure glucose. And so when I'm actually looking at fueling the body, I like to look at this foundational level. And so when we're looking at this base level, we've got many things that make up a healthy human being. And so clearly tonight we're going to be talking about food and particular nutrients, and you can see that that's the biggest rung on my ladder here. And so the 6 steps, the way that I see it, to this health, this vitality. And so we've got a real natural whole food diet and water, which we'll dig into. Next, super important for me, is getting this sleep, quality and quantity. And I actually see sleep as this essential nutrient. We've got to really concentrate on sleep to be able to repair and rest the body, and particularly when we're exercising, repairing the muscles as well. And also thinking about that mental agility that you need in the orienteering is actually letting the brain just get rid, if you like, of all of its thoughts, and just be able to drain via its lymph, which we'll dig into a little bit. And so if we just imagine for a moment that the full body, we know the circulation system here, and aside from that is the lymph, and the lymph really helps to kind of keep the blood pressure right, and it'll take excess fluid, etc. And so this is a self-cleansing process that happens every single day for us, and particularly more so in exercise. But just to connect it now to the brain, it was discovered quite a few years ago now that the brain has also got its own lymphatic system called the glymphatic system. So when we go to bed and we rest and we get those golden 8-hour sleep, if you like, the body and the brain has then got time to actually drain its glymphatic system of all of, if you like, that build-up that we get throughout the day, and obviously deliver those nutrients back in so that we're fully alert in the morning as well. Low stress. Stress can really affect our nutrient status, and if we are in a chronically stressed state, then actually we can start to use our nutrients and burn through them at a much quicker rate. So low stress is absolutely key to health and vitality at this foundational level. And of course we all experience, don't we, certain different levels of that as we experience different things in life. Exercise and structure. I know that you guys on here have got no issue with this whatsoever, and you have already got this in the bag. And here what we're trying to do is obviously give you the fuel to be able to continue and improve that, but obviously keep your structure strong and in that state where it's able to recover well post race as well. Outlook and social, we don't often think of this, but that's a big part of our mental wellness, and then that would link into the low stress as well, and that is vital for us to be able to feel uplifted, supported and well within ourselves. And if we've got these rungs in place, what I really see on top of that and on top of our rung is supplements. And now, okay, I speak from a supplement company, but I also speak as a nutritional therapist, and I think supplements can be super supportive, particularly when we are under a bit more stress and we've got things going on, perhaps when we feel a bit low as well, or we're doing that increase in exercise and we've got a few races going on. Maybe we're working full time, then we're training morning and night, and we've got races at the weekend. So it's almost like I envisage like a drain where we eat and obviously we build up our nutrients, and then we can drain them quite quickly by doing things obviously like a lot of exercise. And so to start to drill down then into some key nutrients within the energy cycle, and we'll dig into this now and get a bit more specific, because obviously tonight I really want to concentrate on the food sources for us and the particular nutrients that are going to drive and fuel this energy for us pre and during a race. We've got the well-known and well-loved vitamin C. We've also got vitamin D on there. We've got perhaps not so well-known taurine and choline, CoQ10. B vitamins are abundant in food and really needed prolifically throughout the energy cycle, as we'll start to see. Magnesium too, and also we'll see iron on there as well. And so just a quick heads up then about the B vitamins. They are absolutely crucial to the key stages of the energy cycle. And we use these for energy, but also we need these for the nervous system as well. So just to link in that you are not only obviously fueling the muscles here, because you are obviously need the physical agility, you also want the mental agility in terms of obviously being able to navigate that track and that route and think quickly on your feet as well. And so these feed in at every single stage of the energy production cycle and are used across two major functions. And so this is why the B vitamins, we kind of take them in across many foods, but it's really good to kind of just have that extra support when we are draining them so quickly. So this might look a bit complex, so just ignore kind of most of the writing on them. We're just really going to simplify this. And so it's really a very just an illustration to really show you just kind of at that level what happens when we eat food and how that's translated to energy and how we'd extract that. So we'll just walk through this together very simply. And so up here, we're eating our club sandwich. It's absolutely delicious. We're chewing it in the mouth. We're getting all the digestive enzymes to start and break down this food in the mouth. We are swallowing that and taking it to the stomach. The stomach acid is there to also help break up this food and mash it up a little bit. And then we've got these digestive enzymes coming out of the pancreas to be able to break down this food process as well. And so once we've kind of broken this down, then it can be absorbed into the intestines. And so all we're doing is we're taking our macronutrients, we're taking the carbohydrates, we're taking the fats, and we're taking the protein from our club sandwich, and we're going to now turn this into energy within our cell. And that's all we're going to do. This is my giant cell, just for illustration. Now, of course, this is well magnified, and just to say that, just to kind of get us to imagine that when we look in the mirror we see one person, but our body is actually made up of around somewhere between 30 to 60 trillion individual cells. So just to give us kind of that huge picture straight off. And so if we just said about 50 trillion cells and banded somewhere there or thereabouts, these are the sites where we make all of our energy. So once we've taken in that food and we've broken it down, we are going to then start feeding this into the cells to be able to create that energy for us. And we've got 50 trillion of these cells to be able to do this for us. So we are quite incredible human beings, really. And we go through a few processes to break down our club sandwich and to extract that so the cell can use it to produce energy. And so we have 4 stages here. It doesn't really matter what the stages are called, but we've got 4 stages here, 1, 2, 3, and the final one here. And as we start to break down through these processes, my little battery symbol there is to show that some energy is released at these stages. We can see that a little bit is released here at this beginning stage here. And then in between this stage here, we also have a bit more energy that's released. And these bits of energy that are released all take place, if you like, inside the cell. And this cell here where it's pointing to is basically the cytoplasm, is just the watery fluid. And it's this watery fluid where we produce that first bit of energy within our cells. Then we get a bit more serious, because once we've done these few stages here, we start getting into this circular process here. And this is where we really kind of ramp up the energy production and start to really now produce lots of energy from that food we've eaten. And so this is my little stick man here that's throwing lots of balls along down the chain to the next guy in the chain. And this is where we're actually producing a lot of energy here. And so we've gone through this cycle here, and now we're actually throwing things across to be able to produce loads of energy as we release those balls, if you like. And so this bit at the end is absolutely huge, demonstrated by the volume of batteries there, that gives us that big energy, if you like, production, that big energy output. And so the bigger energy output, just to demonstrate, happens in these tiny little cells here that look very strange. And so those are floating around in this watery fluid, this cytoplasm. And these are called our mitochondria. I'm sure many of you on here are familiar with mitochondria, but it's to demonstrate that the majority of our energy is made actually in these tiny organelles called mitochondria within our cells, and they're almost like little kidney-shaped bean organelles. And so I always think of kind of a cell in our body of having mini organs that are called organelles, just like we have the liver, the heart, the lungs, etc. And that's how all of our cells operate. And the main energy producers are the mitochondria in here. And these are apparently how the human was actually formed, is that mitochondria was around millennia, and they actually started to fuse and make up a microorganism, which ended up being humans. And so they are absolutely ancient, and they've got their own DNA as well. So just a little fun fact for you there as well. And so just to demonstrate on here the process once again, but where actually some key nutrients come in on the energy cycle production. So I said that the B-vits was absolutely crucial for the energy production at various stages, which they are. Vitamin B5 in its form of pantothenic acid, and again, this doesn't particularly matter, it's just B5, that is absolutely essential to producing this substance here that feeds into this big circular cycle here. And so we've got B vitamins working here as well. We've also got something called choline, which is very much like a B vitamin substance. And then we've got something called CoQ10 here. And the point of CoQ10 here is it's a component of this chain where everybody's throwing the ball to the next person to produce this energy output. And so if we didn't have CoQ10, then we can't pass the ball to the next person, and so we don't produce this big amount of energy, which of course you need to be able to fuel especially your bodies in these races. And if we have a low amount of CoQ10, we can still pass the ball, but it's much more slow, and again energy production slows down, and obviously we can feel ourselves being depleted as well. Now, I hope that you can tell from this drawing here that this is now my mitochondria again. So just to demonstrate, we've gone from the cell and these tiny little organs here, the mitochondria. And so this is my now enlarged mitochondria here. And so I've just said that CoQ10 is produced and used in that last part of the energy production, which takes place in the mitochondria. So CoQ10 as a nutrient is absolutely crucial and fundamental to energy production, and that all takes place in the mitochondria. And we have got hundreds of these mitochondria in one cell, up to thousands of mitochondria in each cell, depending on which tissue or organ it is as well. And so, I mean, it's incredible the numbers. I mean, if we've got about 50 trillion cells, and then within each cell, we've got hundreds to thousands of mitochondria, it's phenomenal in terms of the energy output. And just think of ourselves of these electric beams. I just find it just absolutely outstanding the way that the human body is formed for us. It's just beautiful. And so we just mentioned choline there as well. And so choline is really needed and essential for the mitochondrial function. So for this to be able to perform well for us and stay well. And so is taurine as well. And many of you might be familiar with taurine from energy drinks, and that's kind of where it's been famed for. But we actually can produce taurine ourselves. It's an amino acid, and we can also take it in from food, as we can choline, as we can CoQ10, and we also produce this ourselves. And so in this mitochondria here, this is this huge energy output production to fuel all of our muscles, our heart, and really keep our energy levels at full stack, if you like. It's like having our foot on the accelerator. And so we're sticking with the mitochondria, and we'll just have a look now here. I mentioned taurine, and I think probably a lot of you are familiar with taurine, but just to give you a bit more information about this, because I think, like I said at the beginning, we're all very familiar with vitamin D, vitamin C, and probably B vitamins as well. But I think it's some of these lesser talked about nutrients that can be super supportive here for energy production if we know where they work and how they work as well. And so taurine is really protective of all these mitochondria, these energy producers. And I think of mitochondria almost as factories, mini factories within our bodies that are producing this energy, this electric output for us all of the time. And so to be able to do that, just as if it was in a factory, we would maintain that machinery, we maintain our mitochondria, and taurine really helps to maintain that mitochondrial health. It maintains the membrane, so all around its external membrane, and this little one inside, it helps maintain that as well. It keeps all the membranes stable so that all of this energy production can take place really, really well and efficient within those membranes, because an unstable membrane obviously would start to get some energy leaking out and not being forced out, which is what we want at the end. And so taurine also lets things in that want to be inside the mitochondria, but will keep things out that we don't want inside, potentially damaging it as well. It's also an antioxidant, so again, it helps mop up damage done, if you like, by producing energy. So we do damage all of the time, but it's fine because our bodies know that we're going to do damage just by eating food, by exercising, by breathing, and by doing that, it's just called oxidation. And so when we've got some antioxidants like taurine, they really help protect, if you like, against this oxidation, and sometimes it's called oxidative stress, but basically they just help mop up and clean up and keep the mitochondria clean and healthy and keep the cells clean and healthy as well. And so they keep the mitochondria, it's almost like a bit of a house cleaning and a maintenance as well. And so when we've got taurine in them, we've got that in enough quantity that can really enhance the efficiency of the mitochondria to be able to produce this energy output for us. And then choline works in a similar way, but choline, as I touched on there a couple of slides ago, it's actually an essential component of this mitochondrial cell membrane and all of our cell membranes. And so each of those 50 trillion cells needs choline around each one of them. And then if we're going back inside the cell, all of these hundreds to thousands of mitochondria also need choline to keep those membranes well as well. And so they actually form a fundamental part of this membrane in the mitochondria. So they're essential for maintaining structure, for being able to make the membrane in the first place. They also help to keep this membrane fluid, and so we need that fluidity so things can get in and out. Choline helps transport fatty acids. So again, if we just think about when our glucose stocks might be used up during a race, then we might then need to use those fats that we've eaten as well. And so choline helps transport the fats into energy production for us. And then very similar to taurine, we've also got choline working as an antioxidant, helping to mop up and keep that membrane and mitochondria really, really healthy. We also need choline as well to be able to actually make new mitochondria. And what's really great news for you guys being super fit is when you are exercising, your body knows that you need more energy output, and so it starts to make more mitochondria for you. And so the more mitochondria, the more energy you've got. And that's the beautiful thing about being healthy and vital, is the more healthy and vital that you are, and the exercise and the fitness level that you are, you've got the mitochondria to be able to give you the energy output that you need. The body is, if you like, it's just so tuned in to obviously your needs based on obviously your energy output needs as well. So choline, absolutely foundational to every single cell and mitochondria. It's needed for the formation and the creation of new mitochondria, and it helps actually regulate the DNA within the mitochondria. So super essential nutrient there. And so all of these big nutrients like our B vitamins, C, D, magnesium, along with these perhaps more unknown nutrients, our taurine, choline and CoQ10, all together, they work in synergy then to be able to give us that compounding effect in terms of energy production within the mitochondria, within the cell, to help keep the mitochondria and the cell fresh and healthy and help it rejuvenate and recover as well from the exercise that we're doing. And so where might we find CoQ10 in foods then? So I hope from these that you'll be able to see my little pictures here. And so we have got here that looks like a slice of toast, and it is, but it's got pate on because CoQ10 is super, super rich in organ meats. And now you guys might like to eat organ meats. I personally don't, even though I do eat meat. But if you can't face that, and then pate seems to be quite an acceptable way. The chicken liver pate is obviously, you know, quite popular, and that's a great way of being able to get your CoQ10 in from a very, very rich source in terms of an organ meat there. And obviously years ago, our grandparents and perhaps parents used to eat organ meats, didn't they? Quite a lot of organ meats, and that popularity seems to have waned somewhat, but actually this just seems to be a bit of a kickstart of a trend again as well with those. And so that's just another way of getting it in, obviously, if you do eat meat. And we've also got here the good old beef and the steak, which we know is very, very rich source of iron, which we need, and we'll come on to that, but also an excellent source of CoQ10. And just for another little fun fact is that CoQ10 was first discovered in the heart of beef as well. And so when this was discovered back in the 50s, it was actually some scientists that were studying beef heart from a cow. And obviously this is just by dissecting it and obviously testing it, this is where they found this orange substance, and it was later found to be named CoQ10. And so it was found in abundance within energy dense, if you like, organs and high energy need organs such as the heart, lungs, liver and kidney. And so that's obviously why then it's found in terms of food sources in these organ meats as well. Also abundant as well in a lot of your lovely fatty fish. And so if you're eating sardines, salmon, to a certain extent, cod, halibut, those types of things, certainly herrings, that type of thing, then you would get a lot of CoQ10 from here as well. You can actually get it as well from some plant sources, but just to say that the plant sources are not as rich in CoQ10 as the animal sources and fish sources. And so I've just tried to indicate that from the full battery here on this side. And obviously, yes, we've got some in terms of plant sources, but it just doesn't match the animal and the fish sources as well. So if you are a vegan or vegetarian, it's obviously just to, yes, you can get them from these foods, but in much lesser amounts. So obviously we've got the avocado, there's tomato, there's orange, there's oats and there's seeds as well, which have got CoQ10 in. And so obviously you can get a wide variety and a mix from that, but perhaps not enough. Also CoQ10 in eggs. I think eggs are a wonderful source of all nutrients. And we've also got choline as well, which is actually in the egg yolk. And so if we're eating a really high quality egg, perhaps an organic free range egg, it's a wonderful, tremendous source of nutrients there. And then down here, this was just buffalo. This was buffalo cheese. So there's a special cheese, and it begins with P, and it's a buffalo cheese, and it's a natural cheese, and this has got a decent amount of CoQ10 in as well. And so when we're looking at cheeses and dairy, it tends to be in the more natural sources. It's like when you get to your hard cheddars and things like that with the colorings and stuff like that, not talking about that. I'm talking about the natural cheeses there. And then we also know that we've got B vitamins in all of the meats and the fish, really, really rich source. Taurine we know comes from meat sources. And then we've also got the B vitamins as well, coming from oats in particular and grains, some fruit and vegetables as well in abundance, green leafy vegetables, and they're also stacked with magnesium as a bonus. But just when we're talking about foods, we can have, obviously, if I've just mentioned about vegan, we might be a bit low in certain nutrients. And so we might need to look at that in terms of our dietary preferences and how else we might extract those nutrients from somewhere else. And then I always just say as well, it's not just what we eat, it's actually what we absorb. So we need obviously the digestive system to be working well to be able to break down these foods and to be able to actually then absorb and utilize them within the body. Sometimes if we're on certain medications, that can affect our nutrient status. And in CoQ10 here as well, certain medications can interfere with CoQ10 production and the conversion of CoQ10 in the body as well. So this is personal to everybody. So it's just always to think what else is going on for me in terms of how I can get the most, obviously, out of my food and where might I have gaps that I need to be able to fill. And so just to look at CoQ10 again then, in terms of age-related decline, CoQ10 is abundant in every single cell. And as I've just mentioned about, obviously, the mitochondria, it's used in there in huge amounts. And so I also said that it was used in high energy organs as well in huge amounts. And so to give you some idea here, and this is just from this study here and a lovely visual that we've got, is that when we are young and vital, that we are abundant in CoQ10 production, and we're doing absolutely great with it. It's almost like our if you like, our supply can meet demand. But you can see as we start to age, and dare I say it, even age at kind of like 30, you can see our stores start to deplete, particularly if we followed this line down here and we looked at the depletion in terms of the CoQ10 available to the heart as well. And we know, and you well know, that obviously the heart is the most hardworking organ in the body, and particularly for fueling you, and obviously giving you that oxygen that you need to be able to fuel the muscles during the race, then the heart is obviously crucial and almost takes the first dibs, if you like, obviously on CoQ10. So we can see the depletion there in the heart from age 30, and obviously particularly drops age 40, and we can see the decline there. And then we've got the kidneys there, which I've popped in here, which also have again this quite big decline here. We've got the lungs and the liver as well, so these major organs all hungry for CoQ10. Heart and kidneys always work together in terms of, obviously, we've got the pump here and we've got that sending it into the blood flow, into the vascular system. And then we've got, I always think of the kidneys as the filter then. They're filtering the blood all of the time. There's a lovely relationship between the heart and kidneys. And as we know, there's a lovely relationship between the heart and the lungs in terms of that cardiovascular system, how quickly we're getting oxygen in and how quickly we're excreting the waste product as well. And so we're able to get that air, and we'll be able to get the tissues oxygenated as well for full optimum function. The liver, often an underthought organ, I think, and people always think of it in terms of alcohol, but the liver is really the workhorse of the body. And if we've got a well-functioning liver, then the full body absolutely can operate at its optimal best. And so just a couple of facts here that I thought was quite interesting about the heart is the heartbeats. And this is the average person. I know you guys are really fit, so you've probably got a lower pulse rate than this, but the heart for an average person beats 60 to 100 times a minute, 100,000 times a day. That's 35 million times a year, which I just find incredible, and over 2.5 billion times over a lifetime, which I just think is incredible. And it's almost questionable, isn't it? Even how do we do that each year is just incredible. And so it's really said that the force of the heart pumps, and we can really practically take a tennis ball, if you like, and try and squeeze that and let it pop back out, and that's the force of the actual heart pumping to be able to, if you like, send that blood down to, if we just think about the little toe, the journey that it's got to go down to, and obviously we return that blood. And if we think about pumping the blood upwards, it will working against gravity, so it needs that crucial force to be able to perform and do the action well. And we know that when we are exercising, that heart is working much harder for us. And so this is where we are using huge amounts of CoQ10, and we're back to that supply and demand. And so I've just said that there's a beautiful relationship between this pump, the heart that just keeps pumping, that's sending obviously blood right around the body, and then it's sending it back to the lungs to get rid of that waste product, that carbon dioxide, that CO2, and we're bringing the oxygen back in and we're breathing that in. And then obviously we've just got this amazing circularity system that is taking and delivering this energy to our muscles to be able to keep on moving, to our brain to be able to keep on thinking on our feet as well, and then obviously taking that waste away for us very effectively. And so when we're looking at the blood system then, and we're just talking about delivering these nutrients to keep our cells fueled and taking the waste product away so that obviously those cells can keep on working well for us, We have got the obviously the arterial system here and all of our blood that's flowing through that. And so I always think of the arterial system as just as tubes, and really there's some key nutrients that will help those tubes, if you like, help deliver that blood more effectively just by opening that up. And it's almost, if we think about a hose pipe and we run water through it and we can put the pressure, and we can alter the pressure when we alter the cap. We've got some nutrients here called arginine, and so there's something called L-arginine, an amino acid, and that really works on this tube, this artery, if you like, to actually open that up, to vasodilate it, so we can get that blood flowing around the body quicker, so delivering those nutrients more effectively and efficiently to cells and draining away the waste products. So obviously the muscles then can still work to maximum output without fatigue and the acidic buildup that we get. We've got another nutrient here called citrulline, and that feeds into L-arginine to help the L-arginine last longer, and so just keep that vasodilation effect. And so we're really looking at blood flow for endurance and thinking about perhaps those longer races as well that you might do. Here's some food sources where you can find L-arginine here, again, in your meat and your poultry and your dairy products, and you've got your fatty fish again. It's a winner all round for me, fatty fish. And vegan sources, we've got soya, very rich in pumpkin seeds. We've got oats as well and legumes. This is my absolute favourite, dark chocolate. An absolute lover of dark chocolate, and so everything doesn't need to be super healthy all of the time. And then we've got dark leafy greens, so things like chard as well, and then citrulline, particularly rich in watermelon. And so on a plate then, really, it's all about colour, because I believe that if we're eating a whole food diet and we're getting the colour in, we're going to cover all of our nutrient bases. So we've talked about CoQ10 and choline. We've got choline there, obviously, in the eggs. We've got some CoQ10 in here. We've got the bowl of rice as well for obviously the B vitamin. So we've got everything going on. Mushrooms are lovely and filling in terms of a vegan diet. We might have to throw some soya in there as well. And then we've got some B vitamins and magnesium in these lovely leafy greens. And of course, if we're eating meat, then really we can get a very, very well balanced diet as well. Just thinking right now, we're probably not wanting to eat soup, stews and casseroles and curries, but certainly during winter and autumn, they can be wonderful sources of colour and energy and visual appeal. And then obviously summer, we're all changing out to salads and type of these nourish bowls as well, which are nice and light, but given the energy that we need. And so really thinking then about sustaining snacks, because when I used to run mud races, I used to pack us all up. I was kind of in charge of the snacks. And I used to pack us all up some lovely snacks to keep us fueled on the way round and pre-race and then recovery post-race. And so I'm sure that you're all familiar with making your own energy bars or oat bars. There might be sort of like little nice energy muffins in terms of oat cakes, peanut, nut butter slices and things like that. So obviously we know nut butter is a lovely rich source of energy along with oats. And then we've got things like your fruit, grab and go. I always found so easy to take out with us in the car to the races. Nuts and seeds, and then this is just lovely where we can just have that high fat sauce again along with some fruits as well, and just grab that vitamin C in us and a bit of fibre as well. If you would like some nutritionist recipes, then we've put together, I think we've got 5 on our Instagram, so I've just popped a link on there for you as well. And so personally I did a lean green bread, and it's a bread. You can go on there and get the recipe, but it looks great. It's green, and that's because it's packed with spinach. It's gluten-free, and it's made with buckwheat, which is super high in protein as well, so fantastic. And so once you've baked a loaf of that, you can just slice that down, take it to races with you, slabs of cheese on it. You can put nut butter on it. Sometimes I have that for brunch and pop an egg on the top, and so it's just really versatile, and that will keep you going for a couple of days as well. I think we've got some blueberry muffin recipes on there, and so it's healthy stuff, but energy dense stuff and stuff that you can pack and you can take with you as well. So take a look at that. And so really your day on a plate might look like something like that. And so we've got the breakfast, maybe with cooked oats, and we've got the banana in there for fibre and obviously giving us that extra energy. And then we're providing some essential fatty acids with our nuts and more minerals with maybe some dried fruits. And then we're going to lunch with a pasta of your choice, and always getting the salad in there in terms of vegetables. A lovely, nice, hearty dinner. Might look like a fish, perhaps in this weather. And then obviously we're going to get some spiced potato wedged on there because we need to enjoy what we're eating, and some vegetables too. And then I always find a trail mix, so just mixing that big bar of nuts, seeds and dried fruits, such an easy grab and go throughout the day, which can then stave us off, if you like, the Mars bars and things like that, and great for fueling us for a race as well. And so, okay, that's a general guide, but it's just of, you know, your own metabolism, you know how you feel. You might want to eat 2 meals a day plus some snacks, and you might feel great on that, and you might change that up pre-race or post-race as well. You might feel better having 4 to 6 mini meals a day. I certainly did when I was doing mud runs. I felt too heavy in terms of my stomach when I was eating bigger meals. So I actually went on to 4 to 6 mini meals a day when I was training twice a day, and then I was doing the mud runs as well. And you know your own, as I say, preference and metabolism, because sometimes when we eat too much at once, we feel a bit heavy, don't we? And then we lose our energy before it comes back again. And so it's really just to kind of tap into yourself. I'm sure you know whether you want to load at pre-race or you need to kind of lighten up. How do you feel better? Do you feel better eating everything, or do you struggle with carbs? Do you struggle to maybe digest fats a little bit, or protein? And so really tap into how you feel when you're eating these types of food. Whatever we're doing, I always advocate fruit and vegetables, because the fibre is crucial and essential to us as that slow drip feed of glucose as well, to keep us sustained throughout a race as well. It's not all just about food. Drinks, I think, that can absolutely boost our performance in every sense. Beetroot juice, well known in terms of athletic performance, because it's such a rich source of nitrates, which turn to nitrites, which then turn into nitric oxide production. So when we was looking at that vascular system, and was looking at the artery there and how it can open up and vasodilate in terms of L-arginine, here we've got beetroot juice having that same effect, opening up the artery system. So then we've got the blood flowing through much more proficiently for us. Coconut water is one of my absolute favourites. It's very high in electrolytes, particularly if you can get it from young green coconuts. Now, clearly, we're not going to find them, are we, here in the UK, unfortunately, but there is a brand, no affiliation whatsoever. This is just one that I use, and I think that Joan Howard will back me up, because actually I was drinking some before I came onto this, and it's called Rebel Kitchen, and it's from coconut water from young green coconuts, and it's actually pink as well. And so this is very high in electrolytes. So I love to have this either pre-workout or post-workout as well. And so again, you could play around with that a little bit and see how you feel on that. Hot chocolate, again, I am a chocolate lover. This is wonderful news because it's so rich in magnesium and iron, which we know are needed for energy. It's also got a compound in there called 3-bromine, acts similar to caffeine, but it's not caffeine. But again, it can give us that lift. And so that's why it would lift mood for us as well. And so this is really common sense, but it's just about focusing 8% of our energy on this wholesome food there, this really natural food source, which is just high value for us. And if we get that right, the body's going to function pretty well. We all talk about protein, don't we, in terms of athletic performance. So I've just put some key animal proteins on there, which we know are complete. They've got everything in there in terms of amino acids that we would need in the body, and then some plant proteins as well. And obviously we know that we can combine some of those plant sources to be able to get a complete protein source as well. Practical thing, and again, I'm sure you are all very proficient in this, because you all kind of go out to races and you've probably got family supporting you, or you might be supporting the family. And so I'm all about kind of what can we grab and go, and take out tubs and hot food tubs, travel friendly water bottles, everything that we can batch cook basically, and we can break down and we can take to fuel ourselves throughout the race and pre and post. fan and a lover of batch cooking, as I've just said, and particularly more so probably in winter, but even in summer, I think it's nice to kind of batch cook some turkey meatballs, which is going to give us all those nutrients that we need in terms of energy. And then obviously they're so easy to pack and take out. These a snack as well for a race as well. It's just to say again, as we touch on drinks, it's not just about food, and I've given some lovely drinks there, but to be a little bit boring, we know that water is essential for life. And just to kind of show you a visual here on how much it's needed and where it's needed throughout the body. And so just thinking about that fluidity in terms of the race there. And we've just seen on there that the actual blood composes 94% of water. And so that's all within the plasma in here. So again, going back to blood flow and getting the nutrients delivered and the waste taken away really efficiently, we need to be hydrated. And then we know that we need iron for energy, because if ever we've been deficient in iron, we know how fatigued that we feel. And so we've actually got this huge amount of need for water for fluidity. We need to be able to deliver that iron that's stacked in the red blood cells efficiently as well, to be able to oxygenate the body and get that maximum optimal exercise output as well and performance. And I thought this was quite outstanding, really, that if we just lose 2-3 drops of blood, that can contain about 1 billion red blood cells. It's just incredible, because we just think, oh, don't we, if we cut our finger and then that's it. But it's just that sheer loss. It's hard for us to comprehend, I think, how just amazing the human body is, and obviously the sheer numbers in such a tiny drop of blood. But when we're looking at iron, we also need to have these cofactors in terms of B12, B9, which is otherwise known as folate, found in leafy greens, B2, riboflavin, and also copper. And they're all essential to help build the blood and the blood stores as well and deliver those nutrients for us. Just again, I'm sure you're on top of your water, but just thinking always about how much water are you using and how much water are we taking in, because obviously we know we're taking it in for food and drink. We will use some of it as part of just digesting our food and doing all of the bodily processes, and particularly if we're speaking a lot, if we're exercising a lot, if it's hot outside and we're sweating, we're losing much more. So just always to have an eye on that. Because quite an interesting study here, that it's at 2% dehydration that actually we only start to feel thirsty. And so by the time we start to feel thirsty, we're already dehydrated. So we're already not functioning as well, and everything's starting to slow down. And so it's that kind of at that 1%, if you like, or before we start to feel thirsty, is just try and be mindful of obviously that regular water intake as well. And we know that obviously we can survive weeks without food, but just days without water. And so that kind of always brings it home for me, that by the time we feel thirsty, we're already slightly dehydrated. And so I think it's like running along smooth turf to then running through sticky mud in terms of being dehydrated, and how the muscles can then slow down. Also to note as well that our water does deplete. Again, it's always great, isn't it, aging? CoQ10 depletes. Now we've got water within the body depleting as well. And so we know that because sometimes as we get older, we can start to obviously lose some of that muscle mass sometimes, and obviously that bone density. Hence, obviously we start to get that smaller frame. So it's all about keeping as hydrated as we possibly can, and obviously safely spreading that water throughout the day. And so just to bring home for you here, and I'm sure you're already aware that at Revive Active, we love to give BOF members an exclusive discount, which is Orient20, and that gives you 20% off any of our products. And that excludes subscriptions, because obviously that's already a great deal on there. And we've got Revive Active, which is got the CoQ10 in it, and it's got 150 mgs, which is a wonderful dosage in there for you. And then we've got the Zest Active, which has the choline in it. So they're both very comprehensive formulas with all the B vitamins, the vitamin C, the D, etc. And then we'll have a quick look at the distinction in a second. And when if we just flick our minds back to the ladder at the beginning, I think sometimes by putting a supplement in, it can make a significant difference to the body, because sometimes we just need to help things work a bit better. Then everything starts to feel and work better, and obviously increase our energy as well. Now, this is Charlotte here. Charlotte takes our Zest Active products, and that was one of her lovely quotes there. And so she says she's felt a positive effect and she loves adding it into a routine, and it has made a difference to her psychologically and physically. And again, I love choline for that, because choline helps switch on the brain. It helps fire the neurons, and that connection between the neurons when we're thinking about motor function for muscles and we're thinking about mental agility as well. Back to our graph here. So to reassure you that in the Revive Active, it is a comprehensive formula with all of those nutrients in, and this 150 mg of CoQ10. And so if we're thinking about our demand that we need, this helps us put some of that supply back into us as well. And if you're already really happy on whatever else you might be taking in terms of supplements, we have got a standalone CoQ10 as well. And so I just wanted to pull out the difference for you here, and then hopefully you can see some of the nutrients that I've been talking about. And so really it's almost, if you were going to take a supplement, you're really thinking, well, should I take Revive Active or should I take Zest Active? Then really for me, Revive Active is all about heart and vascular health. And kind of, if we're thinking about 30 plus as those stores might to deplete, we've got this lovely part of CoQ10 in here. We've got the L-arginine, the citrulline. We've also got some pomegranate extract in there as well, which is all working lovely to support the heart and the vascular system. It's got the B vitamins and everything else you can see down there as standard. And so this is a lovely synergistic remedy here. Sorry, should I say formula for energy production and particular endurance. And then Zest Active has also got all of these in here for muscle function and energy. And then we have a bit more immune support. So if you are particularly feeling a bit run down, this is wonderful. And again, you've got that choline to be able to help fuel that brain and muscle function as well. And you've got all your lovely minerals there running along the bottom. Don't want to forget the kids as well, our most important people, that obviously we have got all the nutrients in there for them in terms of the vitamins and the minerals. And they've also got in there as well a friendly strain of bacteria and also some chicory root fibre as well for their lovely tummies. And so all our formulas are comprehensive and effective formulas, because obviously we try and put everything in one for you. And I'm sure that you recognise some BOF members there, and they're obviously taking the Pro Sports range as well. And so what's next then? I think you guys have got the World Orienteering Championships on July 11th, 16th up in Edinburgh, and we will be there. So if you want to come and see us, please do. We will be sampling there on the 14th of July. So come and see us, get a few samples and have a chat with us, because we'd love your feedback on, well, on everything, you know, on what you want to see from us, what you obviously enjoy in terms of webinars, and obviously also as well about the formulas. That would be lovely. So with that, I know that we are right on time. I'd like to say thank you and then hand this back now to Joe in case we've got any questions. Thank you very much for spending your evening with me.
Excellent. Thank you so much, Nicola. That was brilliant. It was really informative. And now I know that there's about how many trillion of me all working to try and keep things together on the ship. So it's good.
You'll never look in the mirror, same again, Joe.
No, there's a whole team behind me now. I know that. Now's the time where we've come to the Q&A portion. So if anybody does have any questions, feel free to either pop it in the chat, in the Q&A section, or you can click to raise your hand and I'll call upon you to unmute and we can take any questions. And I can see Barry's hand up straight away. Barry, go for it.
All right, just get this going. Yeah, given if you think you have a reasonably healthy diet and eat most of the things on your list, given the vast choice of supplements available, how do you know, how can you find out which ones you might actually need, and versus the ones you're probably eating enough fresh fruit or green vegetables to be covering more than you need from that natural food source?
Yeah, great question, Barry. Absolutely brilliant question. And I'm sure you are eating a healthy diet, because I know that you guys obviously are trying to get your optimal performance. And so there's a few factors, because I always think it's not just what we eat. And I also mentioned absorption, but it's also some of the lifestyle factors that come with that. And it might be some of the things that we're missing. If we think about maybe a couple of generations ago, the soil was very rich, full of minerals, and not so much now, which is quite well known. So we're not necessarily getting what we think we are getting from foods. We know that a lot of our foods are air freighted over as well. And so by the time they kind of reach our supermarket, then we buy them and put them in the fridge and we think, I know that I'm going to do that tomorrow. I'm going to cook that. And then it gets to 2 days later and I forgot again. and it's kind of starting to shrink a little bit, my broccoli in the fridge, we know that we're losing nutrients. So of course we're going to try and eat really, really well, but we're not necessarily going to get everything that we need from food. As we get older, unfortunately, things don't seem to quite work as optimally as they did when we reached that peak in our early 20s. And so we might have a little bit of digestive insufficiency. So going back to the digestion, we might not be able to extract and break down that food to absorb all the nutrients that we need. And so I'd always kind of look at the inputs and the outputs of that. If we're under chronic stress or we've got any stress, clearly you put your body under physical stress, but that's good stress, so it's using nutrients at a much quicker rate. So again, it's about supply and demand. But also if we've got perhaps other stresses, emotional stresses, too many demands on us, it could be we've got a sick relative, it could be anything like that, and it brings us down, we're going to burn through our B vitamins for definite and our magnesium much more quickly, because they're supporting in the nervous system to keep us well in terms of that mental wellness. And so there's that kind of side to look at in kind of what would deplete us as well. And so when it comes on to a supplement, I would always go back to how do you feel and what are you trying to achieve? And so if you think you're trying to go for more endurance and that VO2 max and trying to increase that fitness in terms of that, and you might be feeling a bit fatigued a few miles in, but you never used to a few years ago, it might be something CoQ10, but it's usually, it needs still, CoQ10's a wonderful nutrient, but it still needs some cofactors to work, as you saw with the taurine and other things as well within the cell. Or if you're feeling like, you are, your fitness levels are really, really good, but sometimes, especially kind of when you're trying to navigate and think really quick on your feet, and that might be a bit blocked or not, you maybe have that bit of fogginess, then that might be something to do with obviously the neurons connecting. So then you might be looking at choline. You've also got different formats in supplements. Capsules, you've got tablets, you've got powders. And so first of all, go back to what you find easy, what you enjoy, but as well absorbability. In terms of absorbability, a powder is better absorbed and more quickly absorbed, because obviously we don't have to break the capsule down or the tablet coating first, and so we're going to have that release of nutrients much quicker. And so it's kind of that, if you like, the powder formulas, really you should start to absorb those nutrients within about an hour. And so I would go back to your needs, what you're trying to achieve and how you like to take a supplement, really. And I think ultimately as well, it's sometimes we take loads of different supplements because we might have a vitamin D3 over there, then we've got a B complex, then we've got something else. And so really, I suppose the thing about ours is we do everything in one. So we call it one and done. It's just like simplify your life. You've got one sachet, pop it in water, you're rehydrating as well, and you're done.
So put in everything just in case.
To cover all bases. Yeah. I mean, everything that we do is it is scientifically formulated, and we do put things into work in synergy. And so I suppose it's like the CoQ10. We know that it's needed for the heart and all that, and the muscles and everything else in terms of mitochondria. But because we put the L-arginine and the citrulline in, what we're trying to do is open up the vascular system so we can get the CoQ10 to that energy-hungry tissue first, i.e. the heart. And then obviously we're trying to open up the blood flow system so that we can get it actually delivered to the tissues, the muscles, and obviously the brain, so we can think quickly, we can move quickly. And so that would kind of be the synergy as an example in terms of the nutrients. Does that help, Barry? That was a long answer.
It was, it's kind of how do you feel and what are you trying to do versus any really scientific measurements to do it, isn't it? It's not you can't sort of say, right, this is what I need because I can see something, or it's just, it is more how do you feel and what are you trying to do than
absolutely, yeah, Barry, yeah. You're right, because the body's dynamic and it will change. Obviously, as we experience something, we might not be able to eat as well. Maybe we've been on holiday, so again, might have that dip, or might have a lift if we've been in the sun because we've got that vitamin D in. So we've had that lovely. So the body's very dynamic, and so I'm always a fan of tuning back into the body. But I do feel that, especially in this day and age, we are so busy and so fast moving and fast paced, and we've got a lot of stresses that we probably didn't have before in terms of fight or flight. We have those chronic stresses, so we tend to get depleted. I almost see it as like a drainer. What we're putting in, what's draining us.
I just a follow-on question, not relevant for me, but a super elite level, like the Tour de France athletes and Olympics type marathon runners. I mean, do they actually able to do blood tests and stuff like that to determine what supplements they're short of and what they need? If you've got laboratory type facilities to do that with.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I'm not a sports nutritionist, but the elites absolutely will have a special sports nutritionist working with them. And I would have absolutely thought that they are doing kind of regular testing on them to obviously see kind of where their nutrient status is.
Yeah.
And obviously kind of they would have the diet obviously done for them as well. I suppose it's a bit like football players, isn't it? Where
Yeah.
the meals are made for them and that type of thing,
Yes,
elite
yeah.
status, to get that maximum performance. I mean, kind of, I suppose what would be relative for us really is it's like if we go to the gym, if we're feeling absolutely tired and we've tried to do everything we have, we're getting to bed earlier and all that type of thing, we're drinking the water, still can't seem to lift that fatigue. You know, maybe we've been to doctors and the doctors run some bloods for us and have come back and said, oh, you're low in B12. Sometimes we can get a baseline like that and it's actually great. I know that I'm low in B12, but bit of a spoiler alert, of course, B12 is going to absolutely lift our levels, but nothing in the body works in isolation. That's why the cofactors are needed, because sometimes without cofactors, we can't get the end product. It's a bit like people on the factory line. You've got a couple of people missing, that process stops or it's very unhinged. And so we get much less output.
Yeah. Makes sense.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you.
Great questions, Barry. Thank you.
Excellent. Thanks, Barry. And thanks, Nicola. We have a question in the chat from Paul, who asks, that says, thanks for the session. Is there a big difference between men and women in terms of nutrient needs?
I would say yes. But I would say that depends on life, age, phase, and phase. Because the hormones, it's just like the hormones kind of come to mind straight away, that in terms of the hormonal system, what we call the endocrine system. And obviously women have the monthly cycles. And so then women can become more depleted before the cycle when we have insulin. I'm sure we've all heard of insulin, but insulin can be unbalanced pre-cycle. And so that's why some women can start to experience cravings for chocolate and things like this. And so that's kind of, sometimes we get a bit unbalanced nutrients. So sometimes then we need a bit more of a particular nutrient, which might be B6 or magnesium or something like that in terms of the monthly cycle. And then of course we know that women will lose more nutrients in terms of the monthly cycle. So things like iron would be important as well, perhaps for a woman to consider. But again, I would get iron tested as well if you kind of going to go and supplement iron. But that would kind of give you a direct comparison there. And men tend to have a higher need for zinc, and so I always like to think of zinc for men like iron for women. But absolutely, and again, you've got those different phases. And obviously, you know, that we might have had a lady having a baby where she might be nutrient depleted because obviously the baby's taken the majority of the nutrients to be able to grow, and then she might have breastfed as well. So you're always going to have those big differentials, I think, between men and women. Obviously, of course, we all need the essential vitamins and minerals, but you're going to have certainly quite a big difference.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Nicola. And just a last call for any more questions.
Thank you, Paul, as well. That was a really good question. Never been asked that before, so thank you.
If anybody does have any questions that come after the session, if we don't have any more, then you're very welcome to email them over to myself. I pop my email address in there before, and I can definitely get them patched on to Nicola Revive Active and get back in touch with you via that way. Or if you'd be happy, Nicola, I could pass on a contact email for yourself or for Revive Active.
Of course, absolutely. I'd be delighted, Joe. That's lovely. Yeah.
Excellent. Well, in that case, I'll bring this session to a close. Thank you very much, everybody, for attending. It's been really good, really informative session. I've enjoyed it a lot myself. And we will be looking to get the video recording for this uploaded. So if you know anybody who was planning on turning up and then got a bit distracted with the barbecue, making the most of the weather, then we'll be able to pass that on, and I'll get that sent over via email. Just as a brief bit of advertisement for next week, we have a session about the new features of the website, local partnerships and welcoming newcomers, which will be really good, discussing some of the work with the active partnerships, school games organisers, Youth Sport Trust, and a very good time with the World Orienteering Championships coming up, as Nicola mentioned before. A huge thank you once again for all of you for attending, to Nicola for the excellent informative presentation, and to the Revive Active team as well. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for having us. Really enjoyed it. Thanks a lot.